Good evening, Doc James. Good evening, classmates. I'm Byron Inocencio from Systems Plus College Foundation. What I'm going to report today is about unified modern language versus software methods. As we know, there is no single method that can solve any problems. If there is, we no longer have to think which one to use for a particular problem. Presently, we now focus on the process and representation parts of the design method, the unified modeling language. This is one of the example of this process, and this is what we are going to talk about in today's report. Unified Modeling Language, or UML, a general purpose developmental modeling language in the field of software engineering. This is intended to provide a standard way to visualize the design of a system. Then there are three key components needed to constitute the complete software development method. And what are these three? The first one is the representation, the second one is the process, and three is the technique. However, most books on object-oriented modeling focus on one component instead of three, and there is part that is usually missed out, or they usually miss it out, or they gave less attention or less value, and that is the techniques. Then we go now on Jacobson and Quattrani. Jacobson and Quattrani. In the work of Jacobson in the year 1998, it describes as team-based development. It's one of the three major components of a design method. In this process, they focus in customizing the method for the project concerned. In 2002, Quattrani work suggests that case tool is the third major component of a method. This is short for computer-aided software engineering, in which will provide sufficient support so that the designer can customize or create his or her own method. Case tools are used to develop software that is highly quality or defect-free and maintainable. Then, these two, the case tool or the team-based development, are usually being used as a replacement for the technique part. As a beginner, we may find it difficult to apply this particular concept. In the Jacobs view, it is we use it as a team-based development, and in a Quattrani's view, we use it as tools or case tool. This process shows you how the software development methods can evolve in time. Then hurdles in applying the object-oriented approach. The UML provides an extremely rich set of notations for representing systems. Butch suggests that 80% of the software project use only about 20% of the UML notations. To the designer, it will be rather difficult to decide which subset of UML notation should be used for the project at hand. Then, there are typical questions for the designer throughout the development life cycle. These questions will give the opportunity to plan and design in the most effective way. What are these questions? Excuse me. The first is, what models are required to represent the system? Here you can choose what kind of models that you would like to use for your system. It depends on the problem of the system. Then number 2, how should the selected models be applied to perform the development work? Excuse me. Number 3, which model should be used first and which model should follow next. Then in your system or in your problems, you can use one or more. Then you can, if you're going to use the use case diagram, then you can choose what the next diagram are you going to use for your problems of your system. Then how can the models of the system be consistent? And as you see, these are the different kind of models. The first one is the use case diagram. We already used this in our problems, and excuse me. And the second one is class diagram, same as well. We already used it. Then the third one is object diagram. Then the other one is component diagram. Then deployment diagram. Then state diagram. Then activity diagram. Then collaboration diagram. Then sequence diagram. Excuse me. Then scenarios in learning and using UML. Scenario 1. I went to the bookstore and bought a copy of UML Distilled. I've gone through the whole text. I seem to understand the contents and the examples, but I still do not know how to apply UML to my project. But when I learned Java, at least I could use it straight away, even as a beginner. Then the scenario number 2, excuse me. The UML books that I have studied tended to give me fragmented knowledge about UML. There are so many diagrams and models in UML. I cannot see how they are related to each other. Then the scenario number 3. Although methodologies like SSADM, SA or SAD, and OMP are not that great, at least I can follow the steps and apply them to my projects straight away. Having read some books and attended a training course on OOT, I still don't know how to start my small OO pilot project. As what I've read on these 3 scenarios, it shows how important to come up with the best methods that will solve certain issues. That's all my report, and thank you so much for listening. Bye.